This week in Linux, we are celebrating the 300th episode of the show, and we're going to do a giveaway. Plus, you don't have to be here live to be part of the giveaway. As long as you watch the show within the first week of the release, you can be part of the giveaway. Maybe longer than that, we'll see, but at least the first week. I might announce it the week after, who knows. Although I will probably want to announce your name, I'm just going to send you the information. Anyway, we're going to do a giveaway for the 300th episode. And also this week, we're going to go fishing. Well, not exactly. We will talk about the Fish Shell's latest release. Then we'll also take a look at the new drivers from NVIDIA. And are they being good to Linux now? We'll see. Mozilla is also in the news this week with, they've made a new terms of use. And some people are not too happy about it. We'll talk about that. System76 has announced the latest alpha release for their Cosmic desktop. We're going to take a look at what's new, and who knows, maybe I'll do a walkthrough for this alpha. Well, not on TWIL. Later. Subscribe for the show, and also subscribe for content like that. All of this and so much more on This Week in Linux, the weekly news show that keeps you up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world. Now let's jump right into your source for Linux GNews. The 300th episode. This is Linux. 300. Sparta. Yeah. This episode of TWIL is sponsored by Sandfly Security. More on them later. Before we get started with the show this week, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do. We're going to talk about what's happening with the TuxDigital Network, what's happening with the show, and a lot. So let's start off with the giveaway. How do you enter it? What are you getting? All that sort of stuff. So what we're going to be doing is a giveaway for a $20 Steam gift card. So you can get a Steam gift card to apply to whatever you want. And that's it. All you got to do is sign up to participate. And you don't have to be a live stream viewer. You can actually watch this in the edited version. And I haven't decided if it's going to be the next episode I announce it or the week after that. But I want to give people enough time. So at least a week, maybe 2 weeks to watch this episode and participate in the giveaway. So how do you participate? Here's what you need to do. Now, some people don't like it when you have to sign up for a newsletter to be part of a giveaway. And I get it. So what are we going to do to be part of the giveaway? Well, all you have to do is sign up for the newsletter and you can be part of the giveaway and all that. So lots of great stuff. You can go to thisweekinlinux.com/300 giveaway and sign up for our newsletter that you can get that $20 Steam gift card. So yeah, thisweekinlinux.com/300 giveaway. That's how you sign up to the newsletter. Be part of it. Also, in the next episode of Destination Linux, which is coming out this Monday, we have a fantastic interview with Craig Rowland of the Sandfly Security Company. We talk about cybersecurity, we talk about antiviruses, all sorts of stuff. It is a fantastic interview. You do not want to miss it. So subscribe to the channel, destinationlinux.net, to get subscribe for the RSS feed or the YouTube channel or the Spotify or however you want to listen to it or watch it. Just go there, destinationlinux.net. You do not want to miss this one. I also have a new video that has been published on the channel. Go check out the Is Arch Linux Stable video, and I'll be answering that question in the video, so go check it out. Also, to celebrate the 300th episode, we have some new merch in the store. So tuxdigital.com/store is where you go to get all the cool merch that we have. We have hats, mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, and so much more. tuxdigital.com/store. Fish 4.0 has been released this week, and this is a major step forward packed with usability improvements, scripting enhancements, and better terminal integration. The biggest and most notable difference in this version of Fish compared to previous versions is that it has been completely rewritten in Rust. The Fish team decided to migrate the code base from C++ to Rust, and the best part is that the users shouldn't even notice. They wanted to improve maintainability for themselves and performance for the user, and on top of that, their goal is for that the user wouldn't notice anything other than maybe it being faster. Another thing they did is improve the key binding and terminal support, so they have new key notation for bind, simplifies key bindings like bind, control, write instead of escape sequences. Also, there's key differentiations now they added support for Control I and Control capital I. So if you hold down Shift, it would activate a Control capital I, and that can be different than Control lowercase I And also, you can do tabs separately as well. And they've also automatically enabled advanced terminal features for better key handling, as well as some command line improvements, such as support for OSC 133 sequences for better prompt and command output integration, better VI mode or VI mode for cursor changes, and removes dependencies on unreliable term info detection. And also, they have proper handling of long command lines to prevent misrendering. They've also done some improvements to immediate application of the command line changes for better scripting to react more responsively. And they've also improved Control R history search, which is very nice because they've added a wildcard of sorts with the asterisk symbol so you can support substring searches with that. They've also improved the default theme of the fish shell by removing the hard-to-read blue text for better visibility. They've also done new features for abbreviations and history management, so you have command-specific abbreviations now if you want to use those, and you can also ignore specific commands in the history. This release of Fish also introduces self-installable builds, so you have portable binary option, you can embed functions, man pages, and web config tools. There's also going to be no root permission required options if you want to do that, so you can just copy it and run. So for those who are not familiar with Fish, why would you want to use Fish instead of the typical bash? Well, Fish has tab completions and syntax highlighting. Fish also suggests commands as you type based on history and completions, which is basically, it's kind of like tab completion, but instead it's also telling you in advance what it could be completing rather than just you knowing when it's going to complete. It gives you like a grayed out option. And also you can create abbreviations, kind of like aliases, but a little bit more simpler than that. So if you'd like to learn more about Fish 4.0 and try it out for yourself, you'll find links in the show notes. NVIDIA dropped their latest stable drivers for Linux users with version 570.124.04. Rolls right off the tongue. This new release brings a lot of improvements for NVIDIA users, such as adding initial support for GeForce RTX 50 Blackwell graphics cards, and also improving support for NVIDIA's Vulkan driver. They also added support for variable refresh rate or variable rate refresh when using multiple displays, and they added the Conceal VRR Caps kernel module option to hide some display features due to causing some system issues or breaking other feature compatibility, for example, with something like variable rate refresh. The NVIDIA settings control panel has been updated to use NVML rather than the NV control to control GPU clocks and fan speed on Wayland systems, and to enable GPU overclocking control by default for GPUs that support programmable clock control. This release also fixes an issue which caused stuttering and performance issues when scrolling windows in Wayland with GSP firmware enabled. They've also fixed a bug that could prevent displays from being restored when resuming from suspend on some systems that were using multiple displays. So there's a lot of good things to see here from NVIDIA, and it's great that NVIDIA is finally acting like a good participant rather than begrudgingly providing support because they had to. Kind of like how it used to be when they seemed to act like a kid kicking and screaming on their way to the dentist office. You know, this is good for you, NVIDIA. You'll thank me later. And now NVIDIA seems to realize that it is good and have finally found appreciation for the platform, so good job, NVIDIA. The Gentoo Linux team have announced that they have released the QCal2 images for those wanting to run Gentoo in the cloud. So if you've ever looked forward to the day that you could deploy Gentoo in the cloud or as a virtual machine, then that day has come. Gentoo Linux now offers official QCal2 bootable disk images for both x86-64 and ARC-64, or ARM. This allows quickly booting Gentoo within QEMU's native QCal2 format, and they announced that they have plans to update the images on a weekly basis for those who are looking forward to a fully functional Gentoo installation in the cloud. They also said that they plan to eventually provide support for EFI-based RISC-V, 64-bit, and LongArc-64 bootable images. Now, the Gentoo team have chosen to use XFS, and they say they're using the XFS file system for these images, and in their announcements, they specifically explained why they chose it, and they say that it has some features that Extended 4 is sorely missing, like ref links and copy on write. But at the same time, it is a rock-solid and reliable file system. So now, one thing to note is that they're planning to only support EFI booting, not legacy bootloaders. So if you're looking forward to having legacy bootloaders, then that's not going to be an option. And over the past couple of years, I think it's important to talk about this because Gentoo has been making a ton of welcome changes to the project, making it much more appealing to more users. And I think it's great to see such a long-term project that's been around for a while, doing all these cool new things that are interesting and be reinvigorated with all this cool stuff. Like in 2023, they announced introducing binaries to the project, which we covered in episode 250 of TWIL. And then last year, they announced that Gentoo became SPIware. SPI. By joining up with the Software in the Public Interest, or SPI organization, for legal and financial benefits. And we talked about that on episode 259 of TWIL. If you want to learn more about the new QCal2 images or what's been going on with Gentoo for the past couple of years, you'll find links to all of this stuff in the show notes. And I got to say, by the way, I'm very happy to see all this progress with Gentoo. Very cool. As Linux users, we know what's up. Security is non-negotiable. But with threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, well, they're just slow and they also leave blind spots. It's time for a smarter approach, and that is why This Week in Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security, the revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond, it revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, and drift detection, covering threats from every angle. Whether your systems are in the cloud, on-premises, or in embedded devices, Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. Now listen to what Ken Klein, the senior security engineer at the University of Massachusetts, has to say about Sandfly. He says, Sandfly is the first product I've seen that accurately and quickly detects thousands of signs of compromise on the Linux platform. Its unique method automates tasks which would be manually impossible. Automation is key with detection, and Sandfly completely fits this and other requirements. If your organization is using Linux, this should be part of your cybersecurity toolset. End quote. Now, experience security that's not just effective, but gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection. That's Sandfly. So dive into the future of Linux security at thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly. That's thisweekinlinux.com/SANDFLY. And see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. thisweekinlinux.com/Sandfly. Recently, I recorded a video about Mozilla and their changes to leadership and how they broke down the new structure. But I didn't release it because a few days after that, well, prior to finishing the edit, Mozilla announced another thing that is arguably even more important to talk about, and I decided to wait for TWIL. Mozilla introduced a terms of use and the updated privacy policy for Firefox. To be clear, this is not the first time a web browser added a terms of service or terms of use. They all have them. In fact, it's kind of surprising that this was the first time Firefox had one. They're introducing one now because I just assumed that they already had one for many years, but apparently they didn't. So, all right. Let's see what's in the terms of use. This terms of use has a lot of people calling foul on Mozilla, and understandably so because it's written in a way that certainly raises some eyebrows. One passage from the terms of use says, you give Mozilla all rights necessary to operate Firefox, including processing data as we described in the Firefox privacy notice, as well as acting on your behalf to help you navigate the internet when you upload or input information through Firefox. You hereby grant us a non-exclusive, royalty-free, worldwide license to use that information to help you navigate, experience, and interact with the online content as you indicate with your use of Firefox. So the terminology used here is a little bit legalese, and it seems kind of bad, but also there's some ways that you can think about it that is not as bad. This could be something as simple as we need your permission to transmit data over the internet or over HTTPS and that sort of thing. Or we need your explicit permission to get data from you for usage in Firefox Sync, which of course makes sense because that service is literally for the sake of getting your data and serving it back to you. You're syncing your bookmarks or your passwords or whatever. So the way they worded this is a bit weird. It feels kind of too open-ended and a little too corporate-y and a little too legalese, but also not enough details because Mozilla is all about transparency and providing information. So they are giving you a lot of information here, but they're giving you in a way that feels like it's only partially telling you things. And since this responses of everybody having to the terms of use, Mozilla came back with an update on their announcement. Their update says, we've seen a little confusion about the language regarding licenses, so we want to clear that up. We need a license to allow us to make some of the basic functionality of Firefox possible. Without it, we couldn't use information typed into Firefox, for example. It does not give us ownership of your data or a right to use it for anything other than what we described in the privacy policy or the privacy notice. It's interesting that they're deciding to do a terms of use now, because what's different now than the previous 20 years of the browser? I'm not sure, because they've been doing a lot of this stuff prior, and it's mostly kind of related to maybe like the licensing of like the MPL being enough or something like that. So it's kind of interesting that they're doing it now, probably because there's more than just Firefox, because there's the Firefox Sync service, there's the Mozilla VPN, or all the other services that they're doing, and they're also theoretically going to be doing more. In fact, let's talk about the stuff that was announced prior to this related to the restructuring of the leadership. As I mentioned earlier that I was going to make a video about the new leadership structure, but instead, we're going to talk about that now. In the announcement, the new leadership said that we've recognized that Mozilla faces major headwinds in terms of both financial growth and mission impact. While Firefox remains the core of what we do, we also need to take steps to diversify, investing in privacy-respecting advertising to grow new revenue in the near term, and then developing trustworthy open-source AI to ensure technical and product relevance in the midterm, and creating online fundraising campaigns that will draw a bigger circle of supporters over the long run. Mozilla's impact and survival depend on us simultaneously strengthening Firefox and finding new sources of revenue and manifesting our mission in fresh ways. That is why we're working hard on all these fronts. End quote. I'm pretty sure I'm quoting the "and" properly because they capitalized it. But so for my take on this is that I think there are ways that Mozilla should be generating new revenue and, you know, supplementing the ways of doing the donations, because the donations can only go so far. And I think that doing the advertising can be a good idea if they're doing it properly. Privacy respecting advertising has a lot of value. Now, the biggest thing here is that exactly are they going to be doing advertising? Is it going to be like the way Brave does it, where they just replace the ads with their own ads? Or I'm not a fan of that. Or are they going to be doing an ad network that competes with Google's ad network? We don't know for sure. They haven't really addressed that. I think that would be awesome. Create a privacy-respecting advertising network that is allowing websites to sign up and put those advertising codes on their websites and do that sort of thing through their own approach with their own network. And I think Mozilla would benefit greatly from that. And the web and websites and creators of websites and developers would benefit greatly from that. So I suggest doing that. Another thing I would suggest is creating some kind of service that people want. For example, one of those services could be a suite of tools. I mean, you could kind of compare it to Google Suite, and I mean literally exactly do that. Basically make your own version of Google Suite with the calendar and the drive and the mail and everything else. You have an email client that you've been working on for years, and you don't have a service to attach it to, which would make sense to have when you combine it with all the other stuff, which would be something people want. Just a thought, Mozilla, think about it. Make a service people want rather than the VPN service that you have, which, by the way, you should have a VPN service. That'd be cool. But the problem with their VPN service is that it is based on another service called Molvad. It costs twice as much as Molvad, and it doesn't have support of all the servers that Molvad has. And for a long time, they didn't have support for Linux, which is weird. So basically, it comes down to Mozilla. Look at the audience that you're going for. Look at the target demographic and give them things that they want, and then people will pay for it. The post about the new leadership ends with saying, Mozilla is entering a new chapter, one where we need to both defend what is good about the web and steer the technology and business models of the AI era into a better direction. And this is true. I think that Mozilla has a very important role to play, and that is to make sure that the things are more open, more transparent, that technology and these different kinds of AI stuff is going in a way that is good for open source, good for the web, good for people in general, because most companies are working about having the best for their bottom line rather than the overall society. And it is cool that part of Mozilla's mission is to have a better open web and a better experience for users. I love that. I just wish that they would do things that made more sense than weird tools and services that they start, have around for 3 months, get rid of for no reason. And yeah, just make the suite. Just make the Mozilla suite so everybody can use the services that they want, because a lot of people want to get away from Google, and Google offers a really good service, so people don't leave it. Just provide the same service. And by the way, you can charge more. People will pay more to use a service like that isn't owned by Google and is respecting it. You're paying less for Google because Google is using your data. So Mozilla, people will pay you more if you don't do that. Just think about it. However, in addition to all these the new terms of use, there were also some changes updated on the website on the GitHub, which is cool that you can see these changes on GitHub. It's very transparent. That's cool. However, one of the things they removed was about not taking your personal data, and they say, no, does Firefox sell your personal data? Nope, never have, never will. And we protect you from many of the advertisers who do. Firefox products are designed to protect your privacy. That's a promise. And now that question has been removed. And some other instances of the promise of not selling your data has also been removed. And it's got people questioning, like, what are you doing here? That's kind of weird to remove that part. Maybe it's because they're putting it somewhere else in better organization, or whether they're, the way they phrased it is going to be changed or whatever, but they're just kind of removing it, and it seems odd to some. Now, I think that is something definitely that needs to be addressed, and Mozilla needs to come out and say why this happened to avoid it getting any worse. But it does not look very great. The optics of this are not good. So Mozilla, you need to address this as soon as possible. And also, by the way, you have this weird kind of conflict between you are saying things that are like the transparency of the web, and you care about the privacy, and at the same time you're also using like a lot of corporate speak, and it comes off in a weird way of like you want to seem businessy and corporate, but you also want to seem like fully authentic and personable, and at the same, it doesn't really work. It seems weird to me. So, pick an avenue and go with it. So I'm just saying. But you do need to address this because it is kind of weird. Now, this is just my take. Ultimately, I feel like what they're doing here is kind of covering themselves legally speaking, and it's not necessarily a thing that needs to be taken out of proportion. I feel like it's to cover stuff that they're already doing because they're already getting data from, the Firefox sync stuff or the crash data or the performance information and that sort of stuff. And without this terms of use, it kind of puts them in a gray area. So this is, in my opinion, them trying to, fend off any kind of potential future issues because they're saying like, oh, you're explicitly agreeing to the terms of use and all that sort of stuff. But with that said, there's some stuff they still need to address. So hopefully they do that soon. All right, so that's it. If you want to learn more, I'll have links in the show notes. There's a lot of stuff about this. And I think this is a very interesting topic because some people are suggesting that Mozilla is getting, losing their way, losing their path. And I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do think they need to work very hard on their messaging because they're saying certain things that everybody likes and then doing certain things that make people question if what they're saying is true. And corporations are not typically seen as, best friends of people. So if you want to try to be that, you got to get ahead of the situation, and Mozilla is currently not doing that, so hopefully they address this stuff. System 76 has announced the Alpha 6 release of the Cosmic Desktop. So let's check out what is new in this release for the Alpha 6. Now, first of all, there's some stuff that I think is interesting that they're kind of saying here, but not saying. And that is, this month we finished up with some essential features and fixes in preparation for the upcoming beta alongside some amazing Cosmic contributors. Now, this is cool because the Alpha 6, this is suggesting that the beta is pretty soon. It's going to happen pretty soon, which means the next release will happen pretty soon. So, or the full release should theoretically happen pretty soon. I was estimating that in July is when we're going to get a real Cosmic. Like, obviously, like it might take a little longer than that. It's possible. But my estimate back in 2022, I think that's when we talked about it the first time. That's when I said it was like, I was guessing 2025. So if I'm right, that'll be cool. If not, still getting a beta would be cool, or a release candidate would be cool. But I hope I'm right. So let's talk about what's new with the Alpha 6 release. So they have some changes for the desktop zoom. You can now activate it from the settings accessibility and using the accessibility applet, or using the shortcuts super equals and super minus, which is good because some things use super plus, which is requiring shift. So supers equals is actually the best way to do it. This is how KDE Plasma does it. And also super mouse scroll is really good to have too. And it looks like they're doing it in the same way that KDE Plasma does it, where it's zooming the entire window rather than having a magnifier pop up, which I like that a lot better. They also have some more accessibility features with like a screen reader, so it can read on-screen text aloud to you, which is very good. And also they're working on some others like high contrast color inversion and various color filters for color blindness. These are not available just yet, but they are working on those, so that's pretty cool. Desktop view is also now supported in Cosmic, so you can right-click an empty desktop and select desktop view options. This is similar to how KDE Plasma has the folder view sort of thing. This opens settings window for showing the desktop, so you can choose to hide desktop folders and drives and the trash can and that sort of stuff. So if you like a clean, empty desktop like I do, you can make sure that those icons are not showing, but you can still go into the desktop folder theoretically to be able to see everything that's there. So if you have like files on your desktop, maybe it makes it possible to not show those files, because that's what I prefer. I like to have stuff in my desktop folder for like temporary work in progress stuff, but I don't want to see it on my desktop because I don't want anything on my desktop. I want the wallpaper. That's it. Just look nice. That's it. And as I scroll down, you can see in the image, it does give you an option to just uncheck the desktop folder content. So you don't have to, you can have it in there and not show it. So that's good. They've also added additional scaling options, which is very good. So you can scale the screen slightly from 5% to 20% larger. For example, on a display setting to 125% scaling, those who want to be a little bit more, you can choose to do basically an extra 5%, extra 20%. So you can get from 125 to then do 130, 135, 140, 145%, which is really cool. For those who need to have like more specific scaling. I'm not sure why you don't just have that built into the fractional scaling in general, but I guess that's, you're making it possible to have like legitimate fractional scaling, but it is kind of weird that they're independent pieces there. But better that than nothing, so that's good. So Workspaces sees a lot of improvements for navigation, for example. You can now scroll between workspaces in the overview mode. You can also click workspace preview or empty space to exit the overview. And as far as enhancements goes, workspaces now show name and number. They've also minimized windows can be dragged between workspaces, which is very nice. And also windows can now be moved between displays via the workspace overview, as well as making it possible for that dragging a window out of the stack now behaves as expected. And also additional features, improvements for like pinned workspaces and stuff like that is coming soon. But all of that other stuff is already available, so very cool. As for some launcher improvements, they have now made it so that the scrolling, so like search results exceeding 8 entries are now scrollable. And also they have added some improvements for power options. So there's a countdown timer that's added for the power off, restart, and log out. So you can set it up to, if you hit it and you walk away, it will automatically turn itself off, which is nice. They've also made some updates to the clipboard. So for those who like the ability to copy and paste using your middle mouse button, for those who don't know, the middle mouse button is the scroll wheel that you click down. That's middle mouse. So if you like to have that, I do not personally, but if you like to have that, you can now do it in Cosmic. Cosmic Files has a lot of improvements. They've actually made it possible to press the arrow down key to autocomplete file paths while you're doing search for file path completion. That's pretty cool. They've also made it possible to copy a file path, allowing pasting the path to other applications, which is nice, and some other stuff. They've made some improvements to the Cosmic Media Player, as well as the Cosmic Edit, so the text editor. They've made some improvements there as well. They've also made some improvements for the font. So with the font, now they use Open Sans is replacing the Ferrous Sans for improved legibility as the default font, and the default monospace font is now Noto Sans Mono. Now, of course, it's always nice to see some performance and optimization improvements. So they have improved the memory usage. So they've reduced it to, they've optimized across multiple types of things, so like minimization functions, Cosmic Files and workspaces have been optimized. Also, libcosmic updates prevent memory fragmentation. So they've also done some performance updates where they've improved the display and the wallpaper settings, as well as reduced CPU usage for desktop files and workspaces. And of course, they've done a plethora of bug fixes and that sort of stuff. Now, this is still an alpha, obviously, so the alpha means that it's not going to have the latest and greatest production quality yet. Hopefully that happens as soon as possible, because I can't wait to actually try out Cosmic in a more production setting. However, I am going to try out the Alpha 6 and make a video about it on my channel, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because I do think it's a very interesting desktop environment. There's a lot of cool stuff they have with the combination of a traditional desktop environment as well as a tiling window manager. So I look forward to like more each of these releases as they come out. But I haven't made a video about Cosmic since the first alpha, so I think it's about time I make another one. So subscribe to the channel. We have some awesome news to talk about, and that is EA is doing something positive. I know, that's weird, but they've decided to open source the code for some of their games. Their games are pretty out of date, but still, they're doing that, which is awesome. So Liam from GamingOnLinux.com has announced that the source code has been released for Command & Conqueror, Red Alert, Command & Conqueror Renegade, and Command & Conqueror Generals. They have all of their code has been officially open sourced. Now this is awesome because this also Generals and 0 Hour. This is great because you can go to GitHub and check out the code. So we're going to go to Command & Conquer Red Alert. This repository has been archived by the owner, so it's a code dump. Code dump's better than nothing, so that's cool. And it shows the dependencies. It shows like everything you need to make it compile and all that. Very cool. This is not something I typically would be expecting from EA, but it is something that I think is awesome that they're doing. And they're even releasing them as a GPL license. So I think that this is like one of the times where you can finally say, well done, EA. I mean, you're also doing a lot of weird stuff with Apex Legends and that stuff. So, I mean, you take what you can get. So, nicely done, EA, on this particular instance with open sourcing the code for Command & Conqueror and all the different versions of Command & Conqueror. That's very cool. So Frameworks is a really cool company that has some really cool laptops with the modularity aspects of them. And they also just recently did a new event with the 2nd gen of Frameworks event. And they've made a lot of cool announcements, especially with Linux related. So they revealed the Framework desktop. They revealed the Framework Laptop 12 and the upgraded Framework Laptop 13. They also had a really heavy focus on Linux compatibility with multiple mentions and direct shoutouts for Bazite and Playtron. Bazite? I don't know. The founder of Framework, Nirav Patel, said that 2025 is truly the year of the Linux gaming desktop. So this is really cool news. For those who are curious about the details, we'll cover a little bit here and there, but I'm thinking we might do a video where I react to the Framework announcement event video itself. I actually haven't watched it. I've just looked at the details of the very specifics. So we're going to cover those specifics here. And then with the video, let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing a reaction video for that. And yeah, we probably will do it, but let me know if you're interested. So the upgraded Framework 13 has featuring the AMD Ryzen AI 300 series, improved thermal system, new keyboard, and more bezel expansion card colors. Backward compatibility is available for any Framework Laptop 13 owners since the 2021 version can upgrade to this latest version, anything in between. There's a new framework laptop 12, and it is a convertible touchscreen notebook with a focus on repairability and upgradability. And also, it's smaller and more affordable compared to the other devices. It will be shipping sometime mid-2025. And then there's the Framework Desktop, which is a mini ITX powerhouse. The AMD Ryzen AI Max powered in a standard mini ITX form factor. So the key specs for this is that it's an ATX headers PCIe X4 slot. The rear I/O has 2 USB 4, 2 display ports, HDMI, and 5 gig Ethernet. The storage includes 2 PCI NVMe M.2 2280 slots, up to 16 terabytes of storage. Also has Wi-Fi 7 support with the RZ717 Wi-Fi module. The modularity features include custom 400-watt Flex ATX PSU for the power supply unit, and also it's using standard 120 millimeter CPU fans. They also have an expansion card system that's going to be customizable for the front parts of the system. And also they're going to be giving you a carrying handle for easy transport, because it's super important to have that handle on your computer. Now, there is a little bit of downside for the Framework Desktop, and that is that it has soldered RAM. So it has LPDDR5X RAM, and this is due to AMD's 256-bit memory bus constraints. So they kind of didn't have a choice here, but it is a little bit of a bummer. Now, with the soldered RAM, that means you're not going to be able to upgrade the RAM, so you do have to choose which one you want the most. So if you want that 128 gig RAM, you can get it, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. And in terms of like the RAM that they're offering you price-wise, it's kind of reasonable compared to what you would get if you're going to go for the highest RAM anyway. So it's not that bad, but it is kind of a bummer to have it soldered either way. So this is some really cool news. I'm not necessarily the biggest hardware person to know exactly everything that I just said, but for those who would like to know more information about this, I'll have links in the show notes. And also, we might be covering this on a future episode of Destination Linux, so be sure to subscribe to that. And I also might be doing like a live reaction video. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments. But if you want to learn more right now, links in the show notes. Thanks for watching this episode of This Week in Linux. If you like what I do here on the show and want to be kept up to date with what's going on in the Linux and open source world, then be sure to subscribe. And of course, remember to like that smash button. If you'd like to support the show and the TuxDigital Network, then consider becoming a patron by going to tuxdigital.com/membership. We're going to get a bunch of cool perks like patron access to the patron-only section of the Discord server and much, much more, including being able to join me in the patron-only post show that happens every week after the show, after the live stream, which especially with this live stream, which is episode 300, but we also do other live streams as well. Not every week, but mostly every week. So thisweekinlinux.com/live to check out the next time for the next live stream, which is probably going to be next week as well. So I'll see you there. And you can also support the show by ordering the Linux is Everywhere t-shirt or the This Week in Linux shirt at tuxdigital.com/store. Plus, check out all the other stuff we have like hats, mugs, hoodies, and so much more at tuxdigital.com/store. Plus, all the cool stuff that we're doing with the 300th episode. Go check that out. tuxdigital.com/store. I'll see you next time for another episode of your source for Linux news. Thanks again for watching. I'm Michael Tennell. I hope you're doing swell. Be sure to ring that notification bell. And until next time, I bid you farewell. Oh, and of course, go join the giveaway. thisweekinlinux.com/300 giveaway. And all you got to do is sign up for the newsletter that you probably will unsubscribe later. But that's fine. You just sign up first to get the thing. See you next week, everybody.